What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Haunted Beard. My name is Jake. Thank you for joining me. Well, if you've been following along, I've been going through the entire Tales from the Crypt show. There it is. And it's my first time going through the entire series, and I've been having a pretty fun time going through it. And I've been doing a tier list video for each of the seasons. And today we are on season number 6, which means we only have one more to go. But anyways, season 6, we got 15 episodes here to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into it. And initial impressions on this season is I feel like it has had a fairly noticeable kind of dip in quality. Overall, this season, just not quite as good as the others, and I think my tier list will reflect that. So anyways, interestingly enough, though, I feel like some of the production value in a handful of episodes felt like it was almost like they had a bigger budget. At least some of the production design and stuff like that just felt bigger and just, like there was more money thrown at it, but it ultimately didn't really equate in better stories or better episodes. So I don't know. Anyways, let's get into it. So here we go. All right, episode number 1, we've got The Punishment Fit the Crime, or Let the Punishment Fit the Crime. And let's see, this one for me here is going to go in my second tier. This one's a Crypt Keeper, and this one's pretty good. I enjoyed it for the most part. This one stars Catherine O'Hara, and she is this lawyer who gets pulled over in this, middle of nowhere town and is arrested and is waiting trial. And it's for something really minor, for some sort of traffic violation. Only this town has extreme measures of justice. And so she obviously finds herself in this very extreme situation. It is played off a little bit kind of to a darkly comedic sort of effect, just because it's so kind of extreme and over the top. They're like executing people for a parking violation kind of thing. I mean, just ridiculous stuff. So she's trying to, figure out how the heck to get out of there sort of thing. And like I said, this one is pretty good. It's nothing great, certainly not one of the very best, but an enjoyable enough episode. Her performance is good. She's always pretty good from the stuff that I've seen her in. And what I liked about this one, though, as I was mentioning just a minute ago, some of the production design and the budget felt like they had more money to throw at this season. And this episode especially, it just kind of the look and the feel of this little town and the courthouse and stuff like that. Everything is just kind of like larger than life and exaggerated, and it kind of gives off this nightmarish sort of feel. So there's just some good production value to it, some nice camera work, just some of the framing and the shots and stuff like that are pretty good and kind of noticeable and stand out a little bit, and the ending's kind of fun as well. So overall, pretty good episode, nothing great, but enjoyable. All right, next up, episode 2 is Only Skin Deep, and I'm also going to put this one in. This one's a Crypt Keeper as well. And this one is a story of this guy who has a very hot temper, anger issues, and is potentially violent. He goes to this Halloween party to confront his ex-girlfriend, to try to win her back. And, he's kind of a jerk. She doesn't want anything to do with him, sort of thing. And then he ends up meeting this other woman at the Halloween party. They end up going back to her apartment, get involved into some activities. And things kind of get crazy from there. This woman is wearing this very creepy mask, and, they keep their masks on during the whole everything. And then this woman turns out not to be who he thinks she is, sort of thing. And this was another pretty good one. Again, it's another one that I felt the production design and the production value of it was pretty good. It just kind of had some good atmosphere, good vibes. This one is just all pure straight horror. None of the dark comedy or anything like that in this one, just all pure horror. And it's pretty good. It's kind of creepy. The performance from the woman, the main woman, I'm not sure of her name offhand, is pretty good. And you get just kind of some nice creepy vibes. There's a particular moment that stood out that was kind of, pretty creepy and just kind of a standout moment. And ultimately it builds to an ending that I think is fairly predictable, but again, I enjoyed the horror elements along the way. It made for a pretty enjoyable episode overall. So, next up, we've got Whirlpool, and this one, I don't know what was going on. This one's going in the very bottom on Ready Your Vomit Bags. And this episode is, the show has done this twice now, and the first time they did it, I thought the episode was pretty good. They do the same thing again here, and it just doesn't work, where it's this, it's like a meta type of episode. It's set, and it takes place at the Tales from the Crypt offices, right? Because it was a real comic book that was actually produced, and it's set at the Tales from the Crypt offices, and you get this story about the people who work there. And particularly, it tells the story of one of the comic book artists, and she is struggling, and her work just is not, up to par anymore. She ends up getting fired by her boss, and then she experiences deja vu and relives the events of that day over and over again. And so essentially what you get is a Tales from the Crypt episode that plays out like Groundhog Day, which I love that movie. It's a great movie, but it just does not work. That type of presentation just does not work at all for this episode. And it's really, I just don't even know what to make of it. I don't really know what the purpose of this was. I don't really know what they were going for or trying to accomplish. You get the same day plays out. I think it's like 4 or 5 times, only slightly differently. It's just repetitive, but obviously not in a good way. And then it just ends. And I just don't even know what to make of it. I don't know what they were going for. It's not scary. It's not funny. It's just kind of like, okay. I'm just kind of confused overall by this one. I didn't really understand it or get it at all. So yeah, it's just not a good episode and very forgettable. So there you go. Anyways, that takes us to episode 4, which is Operation Friendship. And Operation Friendship for me is going to go in the middle. Hello, Boils and Ghouls. This one was okay. This one stars Tate Donovan. He plays this like kind of timid, shy computer programmer who ends up meeting this new next door neighbor who she's really attracted to him and is hitting on him. Only his roommate doesn't like her, and it turns out that his roommate is his imaginary friend, and he tries to kind of sabotage their relationship because he's afraid that he's not going to be needed anymore. And it's just saying that makes it sound like a pretty hilarious and ridiculous episode, but it's just okay. I think they could have done a much better job than they did with it. And this one just kind of tries to ride out that situation. This one's really all comedy and no horror. It's just kind of a silly situation, and none of it's really that funny. It's just the main guy and his imaginary friend kind of arguing and getting into conflict, and it's just okay. I don't really have anything else to say other than that. It's not as funny as it probably could have been, or should have been rather. And the best Tales from the Crypt episodes I'm figuring out are the ones that really do a good job pairing the dark comedy and the horror, and whereas this one is just pretty much all comedy, and it's just not that funny. So anyways, that's where Operation Friendship is. It's okay, but yeah, right in the middle. So anyways, that takes me to, let's see, what do we have? Episode 5, which is Revenge is the Nuts. And this one for me is another one that's just okay. In fact, I'm going to put it behind Operation Friendship there and Hello, Boils and Ghouls. So the setup here is you have the main characters, they're all blind, and they're at this like state-funded home for the blind sort of thing. And their caretaker is horrible and awful and very cruel and takes advantage of them. And basically, he's almost like, think of like the caretaker of like, the prison warden in Shawshank Redemption, but combine that with like the light version of Jigsaw, because he sets up like all these traps and pranks just to torment these people. And then it turns into, as the title would suggest, a revenge story. And so these, the blind occupants have to figure out how they're going to get revenge on the warden, I guess, the caretaker. And so You know, it's enjoyable enough from that aspect. Again, it's another one that the production value feels higher than average. This gave me a little bit of Saw vibes, as some of the revenge is, you know, they try to set up some traps for the caretaker, so you get a little bit of, like, you know, the Jigsaw Saw stuff, which is kind of fun. But it's another one that, you know, it plays out pretty much exactly how you would expect. Nothing about it stands out too much. It's just another kind of decent average sort of episode. All right, next up is episode 6, and this is called The Bribe. And The Bribe, for me, you know, I was kind of going through these episodes and sort of reconsidering where I was going to put these. I was going to put this one in This One's a Crypt Keeper, but upon further evaluation, I'm actually going to drop it in the very top tier. Happy Crypt Day to me. This one is pretty good. This one stars, oh, what's his name? Terry. It's the dude who was in Lost. What's his name? Terry O'Quinn. And it also stars a young Benicio del Toro, which was kind of fun to watch. But anyways, Terry O'Quinn plays this fire inspector, and he ends up taking a bribe from this strip club owner so that he is able to afford a scholarship for his daughter. And this one is good because I feel like it's the most kind of complicated plot with a lot of kind of twists and turns. Although I will say this, it kind of plays out how you would expect, but then you get to the end and everything just kind of gets flipped all around again. So the ending for this one, for me, really elevated it and kind of, you know, put the cherry on top sort of thing. So overall, pretty good performances. His daughter's played by Kimberly Williams as well, so pretty good performances. I like the story. I like that it kind of gets into this sort of, you know, ethical dilemma. You know, am I going to take the bribe? If I don't take the bribe, then my daughter's not going to be able to get, you know, the opportunities and the education that I want for her, sort of thing. And so, and then it ultimately plays out in a pretty horrific sort of way, which, again, it was just kind of nice because I was like, I think I know where this is going, and it went where I thought it was going to going, but then it flipped itself at the very end, and it really surprised me, which I enjoyed. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend watching this one. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So, that takes us to episode, what are we at, 7? Yes, episode 7 is The Pit. And this one is cheesy and corny, but I kind of liked it. And I'm actually going to put this one up here, and This One's a Crypt Keeper. The reason being is because this one is kind of a play on some of them old, like, martial art movies, like Jean-Claude Van Damme sort of stuff. And it also gives you a little bit of, like, the, you know, mixed martial arts, WWE type of vibe. So, which I enjoy. I like watching MMA and, like, UFC and stuff like that. So, this one was kind of cool because of that. And it tells the story of these, like, two rival fighters who had this, like, gnarly fight almost to the death, only it ended in a draw. And now, you know, there's this big, like, fight promoter played by Wayne Newton who sees, you know, dollar signs scheduling a rematch. Only this time it's going to be like what's the Hell in a Cell type thing that WWE does. But they're going to, like, actually fight to the death sort of thing. And so anyways, they're going to do this rematch. But this kind of has this sort of fun twist on it because, like, the main rivalry between the two guys isn't actually the biggest rivalry. What it actually is like between the two guys' wives who absolutely hate each other. And, like, they hate each other more than these guys do. The guys actually kind of respect one another and their skill set, but the guys' wives just hate each other's guts. And so, yeah, this one, like I said, it kind of is, it's a little cheesy, a little corny kind of thing, but that's kind of part of the appeal. And I also really like the ending on this one. I got a kick out of it. Just what it says about guys being friends versus girls being friends. And I thought it was kind of fun. So anyways, yeah, this one's pretty good. It is corny, but that's kind of part of the appeal. So I'm putting it right up there in This One's a Crypt Keeper. All right, that takes us to Episode 8, The Assassin. And this one for me, I am, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna also put this one here on This One's a Crypt Keeper, right in between those two. This one stars Corey Feldman, and Oh, what's his name? The dude from Breaking Bad. Jonathan Banks, right? Yes, Jonathan Banks. That's right. So, anyways, these group of assassins show up at this woman's house, and they have to, or they try to convince her that her husband is this international assassin, and they are there to kill him because, well, they're there to kill him. This one's just this one's so kind of crazy and just goofy, and it's got some fun kills in it, which I appreciated. Somebody gets killed with like a coat hanger, and just some other ridiculous ones. It definitely plays into the dark humor, and the ending reveal is it's just ridiculous. Which again, this is kind of one of those shows where, you know, other types of shows or movies or stuff like that would end this way or do this sort of thing, you would just be like, this is terrible, and roll your eyes. But that's kind of part of what makes these episodes so fun, is they just kind of lean into the ridiculousness, which I appreciate. So yeah, The Assassin's a pretty fun one overall. Okay, that takes us to episode 9, Stared in Horror. And this one for me is going to go down here in Betty Croker's cookbook. I just wasn't much of a fan of this one. This one takes place in the Louisiana bayous. This guy is a fugitive on the run. He's being chased by police, and he happens upon this old house with this old woman as its only occupant, and she ends up opening the door and allowing him to kind of take refuge there. Only she is not who you initially think that she is. And this one kind of has this sort of fantastical element to it. It's also a bit of a love story romance, a little bit. If there is any highlight to this one, it's that it stars Arlie Ermy as the sheriff who's after the guy, which Arlie Ermy's always great. He really plays into this role really good, but he's like only in the episode for a few minutes, so I kind of wish he would have been in here more. It's a cursed love story, and it just kind of plays out in a pretty, standard sort of way, and yeah, it's just kind of forgettable. There wasn't really anything here that I really enjoyed all that much, so that's pretty much all I have to say about it. So, next up is In the Groove, episode 10. And this one for me is okay. I'm gonna put it here, kind of mid-tier, Hello Boils and Ghouls, right between those two. So this one stars Miguel Ferrer, who's been in a few episodes so far. He plays this like shock jock radio show host, kind of thinking like, a Howard Stern type. And only his show is like bombing, like nobody listens to it. And it's a radio program that the whole station, him and his sister inherited from their mother, who is very successful. Only the sister now is like threatening to fire him because his show is terrible and nobody's listening. He ends up getting a new co-host, and the show explodes. It ultimately kind of turns into this sort of revenge type of story, and it kind of, again, it sort of pretty much plays out pretty standard, kind of exactly what you would expect. The highlight here is the performance by Ferrer, who is pretty good and at least makes the episode, somewhat enjoyable. It's kind of another one, with a lot of these, it's like, does it do anything really different enough to stand out? And this one is it's just okay. His performance is good, but other than that, it's just an okay episode. All right, that takes us to episode number 11, and I feel like I'm gonna get a little repetitive for the next handful of episodes, because like I said, overall, season 6 started feeling like the quality it was slipping a little bit. There's still some good stuff here, but just kind of the overall average, it just doesn't quite hit the highs that the other seasons have hit. But anyway, Surprise Party for me, this is one. It's just another one. It's okay. It's a mid-tier kind of thing. It tells a story of this young guy who ends up killing his father on his deathbed so that he can inherit this property, which includes this giant farmhouse. Only the farmhouse turns out to be haunted, and he goes out there, and there's haunted activity going on. Yeah, it's just another one. It's not very memorable. It kind of is predictable. It pretty much plays out exactly how I thought it was going to play out. This one does have kind of this cool sequence though, where the main guy is driving to the farmhouse late at night and during the rain, and there's this whole sort of flashback memory sequence that plays out on like the windshield of the car during the storm. I don't know, which is kind of a unique sort of different presentation to it that at least kind of stood out as something kind of cool. So, but yeah, again, it's another one. It's fine. It's all right. It's not too memorable. Pretty predictable. Doesn't do anything all that great. So yeah, that's Surprise Party. All right, that takes us to episode 12, Doctor of Horror. And this one for me, I'm probably being a little generous, but I'm gonna put this one up here. And this one's a Crypt Keeper. This one's pretty good. It's enjoyable. This one stars Hank Azaria, country singer Travis Tritt. It's like, what a random crazy pairing. But they play these security guards at this morgue who end up getting recruited by this like kind of mad crazy doctor guy who's trying to unlock the secrets of the human soul. And so he ends up recruiting these guys to bring him bodies so he can literally like pull a soul out of somebody's body. He's on a hunt for the soul and he's trying to find it. And then, you know, things of course devolve into just outright murder and craziness. And so Hank Azaria is pretty good in this one. You know, his character is pretty evil, but he does a good job with it. This one kind of has some fun horror in the end. It just has a nice kind of good horror, you know, punch of an ending, which I enjoyed with some cool kind of practical effects to it. So, yeah, it's just a good kind of horror episode with some sort of almost, you know, I don't know, cosmic-ish type vibes, you know, with the whole soul thing and everything. So it's an enjoyable enough episode that I think stood out amongst some of the other ones. And so that's why it goes right there. And this one's a Crypt Keeper. All right, next up, we've got episode 13, Comes the Dawn. And this is another one to me that is going to go down here in Betty Croker's cookbook. I like the setup. Just the execution was kind of underwhelming. These two guys go out. They're hunting something, and they are in this remote place in Alaska. They stumble upon this bar, and they end up recruiting this woman there to help them hunt down. I can't even remember if it's like some type of bear, I think, that they're looking for. And she ends up taking them out into, you know, Alaska, and there's a bit of a horror twist on it. What they end up hunting is not what they thought they were going to be hunting. So I don't want to give it away, but it just feels pretty standard. You know, I like the cold, isolated setting, but I don't really have much to say about this one. It's all right. It's fine. It's just not really all that memorable, and overall, I just didn't really enjoy it all that much. So yeah, that's kind of really all I have to say about this one. Next up is episode 14, and this one had a weird title, but it's called 99 and 44 100% Pure Horror. This one is, it's okay. It's a middle of the road, and again, this is a season that maybe they're just, you know, because I've seen 6 full seasons now, some of it's just starting to feel repetitive. It's kind of like they're going to the same well multiple times, and it's just kind of like, yeah, we've sort of seen this already in the Tales from the Crypt world sort of thing. So yeah, this one is about this young wife who married this older guy for his money, and she works for like the marketing department in he sells soap, and she's getting ready to do like a business deal with her husband's company, only they go with a different artist to do their marketing campaign, and she is ticked off about it. And this one is, you know, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned kind of thing. And so she tries to get revenge, but she gets her comeuppance kind of thing. So Yeah, it just kind of feels pretty standard at this point. We've kind of seen this. It's another one that kind of pretty much goes in a pretty predictable route. Nothing too memorable. You know, middle of the road sort of stuff. I don't really have much more to add to that. And yeah, it's okay. So, all right, that takes us to the last episode. And luckily, they did save the best for last, because this one, You Murderer, is going in the very top, in the very first spot. This was my favorite episode of the season. This one stars John Lithgow, Sherilyn Fenn, and Isabella Rossellini, and Humphrey Bogart, of all people. Yeah, you heard that right. Humphrey Bogart, like, I don't know, 40-something years after he died. And so they use some of the, which is now obviously old technology, to basically kind of resurrect Humphrey Bogart and put him into the film. So they ended up using some of the same technology that was used in the film Forrest Gump, which if you've seen, you kind of know. And interestingly enough, this episode is directed by Robert Zemeckis, who also directed Forrest Gump. So he was went to that well again and used the sort of same technology. But anyways, this one is pretty cool, namely because I am a Humphrey Bogart fan. I've seen a handful of his movies and enjoy all of them. I love just the old classic black and white stuff, particularly like the film noir stuff from the 40s and 50s, which Bogart is in a handful of. And so you get some kind of references and nods to some of his old sort of crime films from the 40s and 50s, which I really liked. John Lithgow in this is good. He's always great. And so I just love the kind of old throwback film noir type of story that this one gave, and I just had a lot of fun with it. The whole thing has this unique sort of presentation in that it's all told from this first-person POV from Humphrey Bogart's character, and a lot of it is told through voiceover, which again kind of gives you that old-school film noir sort of vibe to it. He is like wanted for murder sort of thing, and he gets this this facial reconstructive, surgery, which was actually done in one of his films, Dark Passage, I believe. It's got some fun camera work. It's a nice little throwback to old film noir stuff. It's got some good performances, and I really enjoyed it. I thought this one was quite a bit of fun, and that's why it was my favorite episode of the season. So, there we go, everybody. There is my official tier list ranking for Season 6. Like I said, quality's starting to dip a little bit. From kind of what I've heard, I feel like I can probably expect the same thing from the 7th and final season, but we'll see what happens. So anyways, yeah, there you go. There's my tier list ranking of Season 6. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. If you've seen these, let me know what was your favorite episode of Season 6. Would be really interested in hearing from you guys. So, like always, thank you so much for watching. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor, and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.